This video is for you. Now, you may think all of us who are preppers are nuts, and you think that we're crazy for simply going through all these motions of preparing for whatever it might be, the apocalypse or end of the world. It's not quite like that. But I want you to please stick with this. Don't shut off this video. And if I don't cause you to go through a complete paradigm shift and see things completely differently by the end of this video, to literally change your whole view, I mean, so be it. But I think you'll find this information in this video very helpful and worthwhile. So please hear me out. The first argument I have is this. Are you concerned there might be, for example, a fire in your home? I mean, you should be concerned, that is. Of course you should, and you probably have a fire extinguisher, at least in your kitchen. That's where most residential fires start. You know, listen, it's so cheap and easy to use, and it gives you some rest assurance, right? And that's a small price to pay. Did you know that only 0.3% of residential homes actually will catch fire? And we're not even talking about catastrophic fires. But nevertheless, because we see these things, like on the news, for example, you see videos, it puts that thought in your mind, and therefore when it does happen, it's actually catastrophic. And you know what? Again, having a fire extinguisher is a small price to pay. All over the news when it happens, pictures, videos, maybe your neighbor had a fire, a relative, or even you. When it happens, it is traumatic. Even if it's a small fire with little damage and no one gets hurt, it will hit you emotionally, right? Even though this occurrence is rare. Of course you'll have a fire extinguisher because of this. Now, I'm certainly not saying you shouldn't have a fire extinguisher and smoke detectors, on each level and outside of bedrooms and stuff. That's also incredibly, obviously very important. You want to do that. In fact, I would say you're probably crazy if you don't have a fire extinguisher and smoke detectors, and I bet you feel the same way. But I want to argue that the reason why you do have these things on hand, it is because of something you've witnessed, again, like in a video or in pictures, maybe firsthand. Or how about this? Why do you have a first aid kit in your home? Even if your kit simply just has a few bandages and maybe triple antibiotic ointment, it's because you have experienced cuts and bleeding in your own lifetime. You saw the problem, you experienced the problem, and now you're prepared in case it happens again. If you're more prepared, you probably have some larger bandages on hand as well. So what's the problem as far as people not preparing for more catastrophic events? My first argument is this, simply put, because you've never experienced it. You've never actually gone through these catastrophic events to be able to make you want to prepare for it again. Did you know that one of the highest groups of people who become preppers are veterans? This makes sense. However, in contrast, studies show that millennials are the furthest from the prepping community, showing no interest in learning skills to be prepared for whatever comes their way. Okay, I will tell you, I truly hope if you're a millennial watching this, I hope you are an exception to that rule. All right, so let's have our paradigm shift. If you prepare for smaller potential problems, a fire extinguisher in case you have a rare fire in your home, or some bandages in case you get a bleeding injury, then why wouldn't you have some simple things on hand to prepare for a more catastrophic problem if it actually occurs? That is where prepping begins. It could be as simple as a tornado, a hurricane, a blizzard, maybe a long-term power outage. And it's funny, people who live in those areas with those specific natural disasters are already prepared and are preppers for those events. As an example, you live in a hurricane area, you probably have a generator. You might keep a week or two of extra food during these times, right? You're already a prepper for hurricanes. But listen, I know. That's not your definition of a prepper. You envision someone in a doomsday bunker with 25 years worth of food, enough weapons to take out a third world country. This image was probably conjured up by nothing less than Hollywood and TV, showing you all those exploits, making it look like all these preppers are not on the fringe of society, but some of the ones who actually are extreme like that are on the fringe. I'm not saying it's necessarily bad either. But what it does, though, is give preppers a bad name and it makes them look crazy. And here's the ironic part. When 2020 hit and there were runs on grocery stores, they were quick to point out that it was us preppers who hoarded in the stores and caused the shortages. Think about this. We're preppers. We already had the items in our storage. That's why we're preppers. If anyone caused the shortages, it was the people who were not prepared, the non-preppers. Everyone always goes along all happy, merrily, not thinking about prepping, nothing to prepare for a catastrophe. Then one hits, quick, to the grocery store. Let's buy all the toilet paper off the shelves. And they blame it all on the preppers. How does that make sense? It's simple, because Hollywood portrays us as kooks. And it's funny, even our own government tells us to be preppers. Ready.gov, FEMA, CDC, they all say to prepare certain items for emergencies. That is an admission that your government is not prepared to help you out in certain catastrophes. Did you hear that? Your government admits they can't take care of you when a catastrophe strikes. And for the fact that FEMA took over a week to get to the Superdome in New Orleans proves that point. And I often get negative feedback from religious followers who say God will take care of them. I'm not discounting that. But remember, Joseph was told to set aside 7 years of food for a famine. He was a prepper. But finally, and most importantly, the reason you're not a prepper, it's your way of life. Your mom and dad grew up in peace and security. Your magical childhood grew up in the quintessential life of a peaceful elementary school, your high school prom, landing a career. You're able to pay all your bills on time. You live in a home that seems like a mansion compared to housing in the rest of the world. Let's face it, even in the United States, the most impoverished person still has it great compared to those of the rest of the world. And there's the problem. Since you grew up with a skewed viewpoint that everything is wonderful, well, human nature kicks in which you believe everything will continue to be wonderful practically forever. But will it? You are betting your life that you'll never experience a famine. But you know what? It's happening in America right now. Or live in an area where water runs scarce. It's happening in America right now. How about a complete loss of power for over a year? How about a second Great Depression? How about World War III in the near future? How about a nuclear detonation on American soil? Uh-oh, I just lost you, didn't I? Don't shut it off. And there comes the fear. But because of that, don't stop the video. You've made it this far, so keep going. Just because the things we may talk about are fearful doesn't mean it's not a possibility or even a probability. Listen, this is the most important part of the video, and you must listen to this. We're constantly being warned that a thing like a grid failure, another depression, World War III may happen, might happen, probably will happen, which is better you prepare for it now and it never happened, or that you didn't prepare for it and it did happen. You know what I'm saying? If you buy some extra food, it's not going to go to waste. It's a simple question you need to answer. It's a simple question you must ask yourself. Worst comes to worst, you store away a year's worth of food and nothing happens. Great. Because of inflation, you just got a year's worth of food at last year prices. But don't let the fear shy you away or scare you away. This is the time to rise up on the occasion and take action now. When you see something fearful, don't shut your eyes to it. That's human nature. Or discount the warning. Even in our videos, sometimes the titles and thumbnails are a little fearful, but that's just to light a fire under your butt to get prepared. Every time, without exception, we include practical strategies to prepare for that fearful title. And we always say on the channel, prepare, so you don't have to live in fear. But it's human nature when you see fear to simply bury your head. Don't do that. I get that's what you want to do, but don't do it. There's only way to completely eliminate that fear, and that's to confront it and prepare. That is why we're preppers.